Earth without ozone is like a house without a roof. Having said this, I would like to welcome all of you to the webinar. Good afternoon, one and all. This is Aishwarya Pawar, working as Project Assistant at EMPRI, and glad to be hosting the webinar on Ozone Day. With the theme, Montreal Protocol at 35 Global Corporation Protecting Life on Earth. On the occasion of World Ozone Day, EMPRI ENVIS found the importance to take up the initiative of creating awareness about the ozone through telling us the story of ozone. In this regard, I would like to welcome our EMPRI dignitaries, the Director General, Dr. Jagmohan Sharma, Director Shri Vipin Singh, and Dr. Vinay Kumar as Director Research and ENVIS Coordinator. Also, I would like to welcome all my dear EMPRI staffs and the participants. Today, we have three eloquent speakers who will be engaging us by talking about ozone and its importance. Before we start the webinar, I would like to tell that each speaker will be given of about 15 minutes to speak on their topics, and we are hoping that all the participants do follow the conditions. And firstly, I would like to welcome Dr. Hema, research scientist who is proficiently working in EMPRI from past 6 years. She has done her PhD in environmental science at University of Mysore. So I would like to request Dr. Hema N to present her subject.
Thank you, Ms. Aishwarya.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, yeah, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Today I'm here to discuss about tropospheric ozone, a bane. Next.
Can you please change the slides, or we don't have the control?
It will be done by Ms. Jennifer. Now, all of us have heard about ozone, but we fail to remember that there are two different categories of ozone.
Yes, and I please request the participants to mute their mics.
Yeah, let me begin again. So all of us have heard about ozone in various contexts, but we definitely would not know the difference between what are the two categories of ozone which are prevailing as of now. So the current slide shows the good ozone as well as the bad ozone, the stratospheric ozone as well as the tropospheric ozone. Now moving on to stratospheric ozone, it's basically the upper layer which spreads between 15 and 50 kilometers. And the main function is that it protects life on Earth from the harmful sun's ultraviolet radiations. Whereas the tropospheric ozone is a ground level ozone which spreads up to 15 kilometers. And it's an important greenhouse gas as well as a criteria pollutant. Next. Now, why are we interested in tropospheric ozone? Or what is that which is making us to speak about tropospheric ozone? Firstly, it's an important component of photochemical smog. And another very influencing factor is the climate. It is a greenhouse gas. And thirdly, the tropospheric ozone is increasing due to anthropogenic activity. Next. Now, there are several processes which controls the tropospheric ozone. Now, which are those processes? Now, as I told you previously, ozone is present both in the stratosphere as well as in the troposphere. But that interface between the two, that is the mixing reactions, which take place in both the stratosphere as well as the troposphere, is one of the controlling factors for formation of tropospheric ozone, along with certain meteorological parameters. Next, ozone production is non-linear and it's strongly location dependent. At times, even if the concentration is slightly higher, the impacts is not that very aggravated. That is mainly because of the location. Thirdly, it's because of the deposition. It depends on the surface environment on which the ozone is being deposited. Now, this particular slide shows the various sources of ground level ozone which is being emitted. First is volatile organic compounds with NOx. These are the two main components which contribute towards formation of ozone. Now, we could have the tailpipe emissions, the fuel vapors, the smokestack emissions and vapors from some chemicals and fuels, as well as heating systems and vapors from some chemicals and fuels, which in total contribute towards VOCs and NOx. Next. Now, there is already ozone being present in the stratosphere. There's a gradual movement of this particular ozone from the stratosphere to the troposphere, and that forms the background ozone at the ground level. Now, at high levels of ozone in the troposphere, one of the main reactions contributing towards it is what is known as a photochemical reaction. And this photochemical reaction involves the combination of volatile organic compounds and NOx, that is oxides of nitrogen, which is shown in a figure below. The two forms of oxides of nitrogen are nitric oxide and nitrogen dioxide, along with the VOCs, which are benzene, ethylene glycol, formaldehyde, methylene chloride, tetrachloroethylene, toluene, xylene. Next. Next, formation of tropospheric ozone. Now, with respect to formation of ozone, there are multiple components or multiple pollutants which contribute towards the formation. There is no one particular mechanism in which it forms. Now, this particular mechanism which is represented here is with respect to oxides of nitrogen. Here, nitrogen along with oxygen combines in the combustion process and there's formation of nitric oxide. This nitric oxide along with oxygen, it yields nitrogen dioxide. Now, this nitrogen dioxide along with the sunlight yields nitric oxide again with oxygen. And this oxygen radical along with the oxygen atom results in formation of ozone. Next. Tropospheric ozone. Now, these are the other sources. Ozone from carbon monoxide also is being formed, whereas monoxide reacts with oxygen with sunlight, or in the presence of sunlight, gives dioxide with tropospheric ozone. Similarly, along with methane, also there is formation of ozone. Now, in this case, methane along with ozone in the presence of sunlight gives formaldehyde. In turn, formaldehyde goes through a series of reactions and it results in formation of carbon dioxide and oxygen. Finally, there's also non-methane hydrocarbons which react with oxygen and results in formation of aldehyde, which is RCHO. Next. Now, these are some of the impacts of ozone on human health. These are some of the generic impacts, but it's very important to know them. Firstly, this, a world over through the studies, it's been reported that there's been chest pain, coughing, throat irritation, and congestion. Along with that, prolonged exposure to ozone can also result in bronchitis, emphysema, and asthma, and can also permanently damage the lung tissue along with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Now, long-term exposure, it's estimated that there could be 1 million premature deaths each year due to respiratory diseases. And ozone also can reduce the lung function, inflame the lining of the lungs. And recent studies also been indicated that it can affect the heart as well as result in type 2 diabetes and other metabolic disorders. Next. Now, effects on crop and vegetation. Now, lichens to forest trees, they are damaged by exposure to surface ozone. Now, global yield losses in soybean, wheat, rice, and maize have been reported, and they range in the percentage of 4 to 12. Rice is about 24%, whereas wheat is even higher with 36% yield loss. Now, higher concentrations damage the growth and productivity of the forest. It reduces the ability of forests to absorb carbon dioxide, damages plants, as well as it enters the stomata and damages the leaves, leading to reduced survival. Next. Now, these are some of the pictorial representations which shows that the impacts of ozone on the crops. The first one shows signs of ozone damage, which is called as flecking. There's some kind of lesions which are formed on the surface of the leaf in between the veins. The second picture, it shows ozone which has entered through the stomata during the normal exchange of gas. And the third picture is a healthy and ozone-injured tulip tree, and the kind of damage which is being caused in terms of yellowing. Now, finally, moving on. Next. Now, finally, moving on, after all these impacts, it's important to study what kind of initiatives have been taken with respect to the tropospheric ozone. So way back in 2014, there was a particular initiative by name Tropospheric Ozone Assessment Report. So this was a science effort initiated by International Global Atmospheric Chemistry Project, and it was developed by an international team of 200 experts along with 35 countries. And the financial and logical support were provided by IGAC, US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, along with World Meteorological Organization. The mission of this particular organization or the initiative was to provide an up-to-date scientific assessment of tropospheric ozone, a global distribution and trends from the surface to the troposphere. Next. So this TOAR has been segregated into two phases. The first TOAR was between 2014 and 19, and the second TOAR between 2020 and 2024. Now, the first TOAR, that is the Tropospheric Ozone Assessment Report, this was intended to produce all available surface observations of ozone and the peer-reviewed literature and new analysis. And it was also to document data on ozone exposure, dose metrics at thousands of measurement sites around the world. And secondly, it was also to assess the impact on the climate, human health, and crop and ecosystem. So the major achievements of TOAR-1 were that 9 highly cited journal publications were published in Elementa journal, and a highly motivated community of scientists of more than 250 members from 35 countries are currently working. And there's uptake of TOR results by other communities such as WMO and IPCC. Next. The TOAR2, which is an ongoing process, the objectives of this particular initiative was creation of ozone data portal and TOR publications in line with the first set of publications. Then again, involve scientists, that's atmospheric sciences, statistics scientists, to identify outstanding science questions in relation to tropospheric ozone, and then to maximize exploitation of TOR surface ozone database. Next. Now, these are some of the key observations with respect to TOR1. Now, this first one, it talks about all available surface ozone observations. There's a 5-year average from 10 to 14. Both the data sets of summertime, that is April to September in the Northern Hemisphere and October to March in the Southern Hemisphere, has been recorded. The recordings have been from 4,792 sites all over the world. Now, if you very closely look at the distribution of ozone here, most of them are concentrated at the in the range of 60 to 69 nanomoles. Next. Now, this represents the, the previous one. Yeah. Now, this represents the number of days per year that ozone exceeds 70 ppb. So the estimations or the recordings were for a maximum daily 8-hour average. And it was a 5-year average data between 2010 and 2014. This was also during the summer months in both the Northern and the Southern hemispheres. And if you very closely look at it, most of it is concentrated towards the Northern hemisphere, and it spreads across 7 to 15 days. So which means the number of days per year that ozone exceeds 70 ppb were between 7 to 15 days and not beyond 15 days. Next. This is a close-up of the previous one. And if you very closely look at it, now the ones which come in the range of 1 to 3 days average has been concentrated mostly in the southern part of North America. Next. Now, this is TOR observations, the monitoring locations, which are discretized to 2 into 2 kilometers grid. And here, if you very closely look at it, in the grid in which India is being seen, so here the concentration of ozone ranges from about 52 to 64 ppb. Next.
Yes, ma'am. And the presentation is going great. We would request you to conclude it by 2 more minutes.
Yeah, I'll just do that. So this representation is basically with respect to ozone air quality standards. It's an 8-hour monitoring results in 4,800 monitoring stations. And here, as represented India, in the case of India, so it is shown that most of the values were within the range and it did not exceed in 100 given days. Only 2 days it exceeded beyond the limit of 50, and all other days it was within the range. Next. Now, this is with respect to impact on the vegetation. So 3,345 non-urban sites were taken, and these were perennial trees throughout the world. And here, if you look at it very closely, most of the concentration is about 25,001 ppb per hour. So which was exorbitantly high in all the areas which are recorded. Next. So way forward is, these are some of the ways in which we can control the tropospheric ozone. Vapor recovery nozzles at gasoline pumps to reduce refilling emissions, and cleaner burning gasoline reformulated to reduce VOC, NOx and other pollutants, and strict NOx emission limits for power plants and industrial combustion sources, enhanced vehicle inspection programs, and strict limitations on solvent usage in factories which are a source of VOCs. Next. Thank you.